Welcome to Cooking Gluten and Dairy Free with me, Dave D. Today I'm going to make some creamy crab soup that blends that crab flavor we love in the summertime with that warm comfort we love in the wintertime. And of course, this recipe is gluten and dairy free, but feel free to substitute gluten and dairy products, as that'll be just as delicious. So starting with our ingredients, you'll need 1 small sweet onion or half of a large sweet onion, 3 stalks of celery. My grocery store has them cut up and washed, so I'll be using 6 halves. We'll be using some non-dairy butter sticks. I find that Earth Balance makes a really good product, and you can find it at most grocery stores. The one I'm using today is vegan, but they also have a non-dairy soy-free version that's good as well. Of course, we'll have to add the non-dairy butters player partners, dairy-free heavy cream, and dairy-free half and half. So Silk makes a really good product, but don't sleep on Khalifa Farms as they make a wonderful product as well. Pretty much any dairy-free half and half or heavy cream will work, but just make sure you don't use any of the sweetened products, as that will kind of change the flavor profile. Alright, so to thicken our soup, we're going to make a little bit of a roux, and for that we'll need some gluten-free all-purpose flour. You can find this in your grocery store's gluten-free aisle. Bob's Red Mill is a pretty popular brand. To up the level of our flavor profile, we're going to add some Western of Chester cat sauce and some hot sauce. Again, any brand will work, but today we're rocking with French's and Texas Pete. Alright, now listen, I had to make a little bit of a substitution today. My grocery store was out of sherry wine, which is ideal for this recipe, so we're subbing in some cooking white wine, and I'm sure it'll be just as delicious. Alright, so now you have 2 choices. You can either level up your seafood flavor by going with some lobster broth concentrate, or you can do what I did and up the veggie flavor by going with some veggie broth concentrate. Both work, both are gluten and dairy free. You have the choice to make. Unfortunately, the grocery store made the choice for me, so we're going with veggie. They didn't have any lobster, but it'll still work. Next, we have the star of the show, some lumped crab meat. Now, I live in Maryland, so I went with blue crab meat, but you can go with any real lumped crab meat that you want. Imitation crab ain't gonna work for this recipe, and that stuff is gross anyway. So spend an extra couple pennies and get the good stuff. Next, we have garlic paste, Old Bay seasoning. Listen, if you're cooking seafood and you're not using Old Bay, you're doing it wrong. It pairs perfectly with all seafood. Next, you'll need 2 to 3 bay leaves, which brings that Old Bay flavor together. And finally, our last ingredient that's going to up the seafood flavor is seafood culinary stock, or seafood broth. Hey, listen, I know it doesn't sound great, but trust me, we're making seafood soup, so you need all the seafood flavor you can get. If you want to dial back the seafood flavor, feel free to use veggie or chicken broth. Alright, enough with the ingredients, let's cook. Go ahead and grate or fine chop 3 stalks of celery and do the same with a small onion. I like grating at this step because it softens the veggies and makes the soup come out smoother than them dudes in $2,000 shoes. If you end up with pieces that don't grate well, go ahead and go over them with a knife. Next, cut the stick of butter in half. We'll use 1 half for the soup and the other half for a surprise I got coming up later. Now, go ahead and measure out 2 cups of heavy cream and 1 cup of half and half. I combine here, but that step really isn't necessary. For our last step of our prep, go ahead and measure out 4 tablespoons of flour. While doing this, I realized that 4 tablespoons of flour is equivalent to a 1/4 cup, so I never claimed to be smart. I just cook good. Now go ahead and get a nice big pot and put it on medium high and add your butter so it can melt down. Next, add your grated onion and your grated celery. Stir them around so they mix with that butter and let them saute for about 3 to 5 minutes until they become nice and soft. Now let's add some garlic to the mix with a tablespoon of garlic paste. If you don't have garlic paste, it's fine. Just add 1 to 2 cloves of minced garlic. Alright, now it's time for me to say what the YouTubers say. The exact ingredients will be listed in the description down below. And while you're down there, please hit the like button. Also hit the subscribe button so you can keep impressing your friends with these delicious recipes. Or eat good all by yourself. Now, where were we? Yes, making pure and utter deliciousness. Alright, so immediately after you add the garlic, give it a quick stir and add 1 tablespoon of your broth concentrate. Reduce the heat down to medium and allow the concentrate to soften and incorporate. When it's nice and incorporated in about 1 to 2 minutes, go ahead and slowly add your 4th cup of flour, which we discovered was 4 tablespoons. Again, this will be the thickening agent of the soup. As you're adding your flour, make sure you keep it stirring so nothing sticks to the bottom. Once the flour disappears or cooks off, go ahead and add 2 cups of your broth. Then bring your heat back to medium-high and let it come to a simmer. Once it comes to a simmer, we're going to add 1 cup of our half and half and 2 cups of our heavy cream to add the creaminess that makes this recipe so delicious. Add it slow and keep it stirring. Again, let this come to a simmer. Once that starts simmering, reduce the heat back down to medium and add a 4th cup of white wine, which should be sherry wine. But today we're making a little substitution. All good, it's still going to be fire. Stir that wine in so it incorporates. Alright, so I should say that when you're cooking with wine, the alcohol cooks off, so it's totally safe for kids. But if you're avoiding alcohol, feel free to skip this step. Next is the level up of this recipe, our Old Bay. Go ahead and add about a tablespoon worth for now, and we'll add a little bit more to season to taste later. Stir that up and let it incorporate. Next, go in with some Worcestershire of Chester sauce. Stir that in and follow it up with about a tablespoon of hot sauce. Stir that in. Finally, add 3 leaves of Old Bay. Reduce the heat down to low and let it simmer for about 7 to 10 minutes. That process should allow all the flavors that we added to incorporate, and it allows the soup to thicken. Finally, we're going to add the star of the show, 16 ounces of lump crab meat. Add that all in and stir it. Add some more and stir it until all the crab is in. Finally, cover that up, keep your heat low, and let it simmer for about 10 minutes so that crab flavor incorporates and the crab that is a little bit colder comes up to the temperature of the soup. Alright, so while that's simmering, let's go ahead and make some gluten and dairy-free garlic bread to go with this delicious soup. For this, we'll be using a Char gluten-free baguette. Alright, so listen, when it comes to people who eat gluten-free, bread is always a point of contention. It's pretty hit or miss, with it being a miss most of the time, but this Char bread is delicious. They're not a sponsor. Char, holler at me if you're interested, but they do make a great bread. Anyway, cut the bread up on a diagonal. In a saucepan, melt some butter. I'm using half of what we cut earlier. And add your garlic. Garlic paste or minced garlic will work. At this point, put your bread in and let it cook on both sides until they reach the color or doneness that you desire. Cut the heat and then sprinkle some Italian seasoning or oregano over it. Boom, there you have it, gluten and dairy-free garlic bread. Alright, so now that our soup has simmered for about 10 minutes, it's time to go in for a taste test and season to your taste. I went in with a little bit of salt, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of onion powder, some more Old Bay, and some more hot sauce. Once that all stirred in, I went in for another taste test, and boom, perfection. Alright, now it's time to plate this thing up. Alright, so I'm going to be honest. I put a lot of effort into cooking, not so much into plating, but I did my best here. Go ahead and add your soup to a bowl, then put a few drips of your hot sauce, and add some chives for some added flavor and a pop of color. And there you have it, folks, gluten and dairy-free creamy crab soup. Remember, you can put in gluten and dairy products if you want. Please, please, please hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. This is my first video on YouTube, and if you're interested in more gluten and dairy-free recipes, showing love with likes and subscriptions lets me know to keep going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.